Hi, welcome to another Cubase tutorial by Kyle Simpson with Simpson Studios. I've been doing some smaller videos just showing off smaller tools that I use practically daily that I really like, and I'd love to just show off because some of these tools are hidden, and once I found out about them, they doubled my production time and other things. So I'm going to be showing you a great new tool called Render in Place. And it's under your edit on the top, Render in Place. And here's your two options. So, Render in Place is a lot like, let's take for instance, I know the last video we were messing with the bass track, but we'll do the same thing because it's a MIDI track. So take for instance, like before, we had a whole bunch of plugins on it, and we were taking up all of my processing on my computer, or all of yours, and you're done with the bass. You've done everything you need to do to it. You love how it sounds. It's perfect. Now, in most cases, you would just go to File, Export, probably solo it out, and then mix it down that way. Excuse me. But Cubase, especially this new 8.0 update, is where they put this nice little tool in, and I'll show you exactly what it does. Anything that you highlight, even if you highlight several things here, what it's going to do now is save you the hassle of having to go File, Export, mix down the audio, then go into the folder it was at, drag and drop it in, line it up, blah 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 blah. Now, let's say, I could do the whole entire track, but I'm just going to do one. You go to Edit, Render in Place. First of all, we'll go to Render Settings. After you place these settings in here, it'll stay the same, and you can just go to Edit, Render. This is a lot like freezing, as in it's got a tail size. You can do 5 or 10 seconds. Now, when it comes to Render in Place, it makes a big difference because it'll actually give you that 5 or 10 seconds of just an audio track with whatever's left over. So it's really important that you don't lose that. So you've got a few different tools here. You can obviously do a dry one, which for MIDI it would be okay. It would just give you just a dry wave of the bass track. Or you can do channel settings. Now, when it comes to MIDI, you're going to want to do complete signal path. Complete signal path also includes your audio inserts and everything in here. Your whole package deal, exactly how you have the bass sounding, you can do complete signal path. If you don't have any plugins on it at all, you can do channel settings, which is basically the immediate channel settings, which doesn't always add everything. Complete signal path will. Now, if you do complete signal path plus master effects, the master effects includes your stereo out. So if you're running full-blown mastering in real time, it's going to put that inside the wave. Most of the time you don't want to do that though. So for me, I usually bounce between these two, and I'll show you why. So I'm going to do complete signal path. I have just this piece done here. We'll do 5 seconds, sure. Really everything else. One thing you'll want to make sure you do is, by default, it's set to as separate events. So what'll end up happening is you mix this whole bass track down, but it's going to give you each one of these, they're going to be their own audio file next to each other. Well, if you're done with the bass, you don't want a bunch of snippets, you want the whole thing. Separate events, block events are the same thing. I personally, for everything I do, I always have it as one event. If I just need a small portion, then I'll just highlight the small portion. That's just for me, that's how I do it. So as one event, complete signal path. When it comes to MIDI, we'll hit render. Just a small snippet, so it should be pretty quick. And there we have it. There is our bass track in raw wave format. This is fantastic when it comes to relieving your system, because it does the same thing. It'll go through and you'll see it actually mutes the MIDI track, everything else, and of course you can go through and just completely get rid of it if you want to. Normally I will turn off the contact player that this was in, disconnect, turn off all the plugins, and just hit mute and hide it, so I don't have to see it. But I will keep the MIDI track just in case something happens or I get a new bass amp that I want to try. At least the track itself isn't gone forever, it's just not making any noise. So that's the great thing about Render in Place, is within just seconds it did everything for me, dropped it down to its own wave, perfectly lined up, ready to go. So the same would go for, see, I have it as one event. So now, since I have set what I liked, you can now go to Render in Place and just hit render. Okay, see, it does the same thing. It'll just join it all as one event, or you can do separate. It's whatever you're working on, whatever you'd like to do. But this Render in Place is fantastic. It's a great tool to have, again, for lower end PCs where you did something, you like it, and you render it down. It also helps to do effects. I mean, if you want that raw wave track to chop up or do reverse effects, stuff you couldn't do in MIDI. So it makes it nice. That was for the MIDI. I'm going to show you. Let me find it. Okay, take for instance this electric. Now I don't think I've really shown off what. Okay, so obviously I'm using a real-time amp. I'm using the Joey Sturgis Tone Forge amp. If you're doing any kind of rock, this thing is phenomenal, and it's a really good price too. It's called Menace. And then I've got a compressor on it that I like. So I'm done with it. I like it. Now these things, when you start stacking electric parts, they take a toll on your CPU. So take for instance, I got the whole guitar track. For this, let's go to render settings. If you have a mono track, usually you want to keep it mono. That's where you can use channel settings. It includes everything that's in here, but it's not doing it as a stereo path. It's going to just do the immediate what it hears right here. If I do complete signal path, it'll give me a stereo track like that bass track. So I'm going to say channel settings, and same thing, just hit render. You can even see that the waves are different. It's actually a solid guitar, because up here we were running the amp in real time, so technically I'm recording clean. So this is the actual, and it does a great job keeping the exact same tone that you heard. It's a great tool, so definitely use it. It's once you're done with everything, because when you start adding mixing and mastering, I mean, your system's going to take a toll. So it's great to just go through and mix everything down as a solid done wave file, especially if you know you're done with it, and save your system some room and make it to where you can add more. So if you got any other questions on it, feel free to comment below, and I'll do more videos, or click subscribe. I'm going to keep putting up updates, and we'll go from there. Thanks, guys.